Warning: the following video contains strong language that may be offensive to some viewers and/or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Did you hear about what happened? Crazy.
True crime. We online.
Come check us out.
Tune in. It's about to go down.
So we at
True crime. Based on real life events. Every story has two sides.
telling the truth, who telling them lies?
Them or me, anybody with eyes, they can see that this the truth that I am speaking. Blood leaking, what's the reason? No remorse for the family. Where's the justice? We need peace. Another plot twist this deep. Got me on the edge of my
I wonder what's gonna happen next.
Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of Murder and Cocktails, where true crime meets mythology. I'm your host, Nicole Mitchell-Colley, and I'm riding solo today. Today, we delve into the chilling story of Richard Ramirez, infamously known as the Night Stalker. Ramirez's brutal killing spree from 1984 to 1985 terrorized California, casting a dark shadow over the Los Angeles area and leaving countless residents paralyzed with fear. His random and sadistic attacks on men, women, and children defied typical serial killer patterns, and his satanic symbolism left at crime scenes only heightened the horror surrounding him. Ramirez targeted his victims in their own homes, places people believed to be safe, and his violent methods, coupled with his unpredictable behavior, transformed him into a nightmare come to life. As his crimes unfolded, the media dubbed him the Night Stalker, and the name stuck, forever linking Ramirez to one of the most terrifying chapters in California's criminal history. Join me as we explore the psychological descent, the investigations, and the disturbing legacy of Richard Ramirez, the man who brought terror to Southern California and changed the way a community viewed safety and security in their own homes. But first, a few facts about him. His attacks were horrifyingly violent, often involving the murder of the male resident followed by the sexual assault of the female, all while ensuring that he could see the fear in their eyes. In one early incident, he startled Maria Hernandez by knocking on her car hood before attacking. Ramirez's brutality extended to mutilation, as seen in the case of Maxine Zazara, whose eyes he removed after killing her. Investigators identified him as an enraged killer due to the vicious manner in which his victims were murdered. After some murders, Ramirez would linger, making himself at home by eating food in the victims' kitchens. In one particularly disturbing instance, he killed Peter Pan, raped his wife Barbara, and then emptied the fridge, vomited on the floor, and left a satanic symbol on the wall. A key clue linking Ramirez to his crimes was the avia shoe print left at a scene. This rare size, 11.5 shoe, had only been sold in one store in Los Angeles, which narrowed the suspect pool. Reporters nearly linked the information, which would have tipped off Ramirez, but it was kept quiet at the last minute. However, San Francisco Mayor Dianne Feinstein later disclosed the details publicly, leading Ramirez to dispose of the shoes. Ramirez's brutality extended to children, whom he abducted, assaulted, and later abandoned. One of the young survivors, a 6-year-old, provided a description that would later help police identify him. Ramirez left pentagrams at several crime scenes and made victims swear to Satan. His court appearances included him holding up a pentagram and proclaiming, "Hail Satan," after pleading not guilty, solidifying his disturbing alignment with Satanism. On one occasion, Ramirez was nearly caught after a failed kidnapping. During a routine traffic stop, he realized police were after him, drew a pentagram on the hood of his stolen car, and fled on foot. A dentist record found in the car allowed police to set a trap for him, but a malfunctioning alarm at the dentist's office allowed him to slip away. After the Peter Pan murder, Mayor Dianne Feinstein revealed sensitive evidence at a press conference, including the type of gun and shoe used. This disclosure tipped off Ramirez, who then disposed of the shoes, eliminating a crucial piece of evidence. Ramirez's early years were marked by severe trauma, including his father's abusive punishments and witnessing his cousin kill his wife when he was only 13. This violence, combined with his fascination with Satanism, set him on a dark path. He later questioned whether serial killers are born or shaped by their environment. Ramirez held a twisted reverence for others like himself, especially other infamous killers. When caught, he referred to Detective Frank Salerno as Mr. Salerno, showing respect for the man who had apprehended the Hillside Strangler, a killer Ramirez admired. Salerno described him as a student, someone who looked up to the killers who had come before him. When police sought to get Ramirez to talk, they placed him in the same cell as the Hillside Strangler, which thrilled him. He looked up to other serial killers, seeing them as role models. Later, Ramirez even asked Salerno and Carrillo if they planned to attend his execution, showing a chilling sense of pride and anticipation around his own death sentence. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone that this episode discusses graphic content and may not be suitable for all audiences. So, grab your favorite libation and let's raise a glass to a murderously good time. But first, some true crime news. Christine Banfield, a compassionate nurse, left a profound impact on her patients during the pandemic. COVID patient Rodrigo Valderrama fondly remembers her kindness after waking from a coma, recalling how she shaved him and arranged a Zoom call with his family. In spring 2021, he invited Christine, her husband Brendan, an IRS special agent, and their young daughter Valerie to a gathering. Christine hired an au pair, Juliana Perez Magales, to help with childcare. However, on February 24, 2023, a horrific incident unfolded. Police responded to a 911 call from Juliana, who reported a gruesome scene. They found Christine with fatal stab wounds and Joe Ryan, who allegedly arrived for a prearranged encounter, dead from gunshot wounds. Valerie was unharmed in the basement. Juliana initially claimed self-defense, stating that Brendan shot Ryan with his service revolver before she fired a second shot, fearing further danger. However, evidence later revealed an affair between Brendan and Juliana, along with suspicious messages, photos, and a visit to a firing range where Brendan purchased the Glock used in the shooting. Both were eventually charged with the murders. While Brendan and Juliana initially denied planning the murders, prosecutors uncovered evidence suggesting that Brendan sought to be rid of Christine. Shortly before the killings, he allegedly instructed Juliana to contact Ryan under Christine's name to set up a violent roleplay encounter. Authorities allege Brendan and Juliana entered the home, staged the attack, and then killed Christine and Ryan. Facing trial, Juliana accepted a plea deal, cooperating with authorities in exchange for a discharge of involuntary manslaughter. If you have any thoughts or comments on today's story, please reach out to us on social media or through our website. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Richard Ramirez, one of the most notorious serial killers in American history, left a dark and lasting legacy that continues to haunt public consciousness. Born on February 29, 1960 in El Paso, Texas, Ramirez grew up in an abusive environment that set the stage for his descent into violent crime. The youngest of 5 children born to Mexican immigrant parents, his father was known for violent outbursts that contributed to a volatile household. Early exposure to abuse, combined with traumatic influences from his cousin, Miguel Ramirez, a Vietnam War veteran, significantly shaped Richard's development into a remorseless killer. At a young age, Richard was introduced to extreme violence through his cousin Mike, who boasted about committing atrocities during the Vietnam War. Mike showed Richard graphic photographs of women he had raped and killed in Vietnam. desensitizing him to violence and warping his understanding of power. The pivotal moment came when Richard, at the age of 13, witnessed his cousin fatally shoot his wife in a domestic dispute. This traumatic event further fueled Richard's growing fascination with violence, Satanism, and the occult. By the time he reached his teenage years, Ramirez had begun experimenting with drugs such as marijuana and LSD, dropping out of high school and drifting toward a life of crime. In 1982, at the age of 22, Ramirez moved to California, where his criminal activities escalated from petty thefts and burglaries to home invasions and murder. His first known murder occurred in June 1984 when he broke into the Los Angeles apartment of 79-year-old Jenny Vincow, raping and stabbing her to death. While this marked the beginning of his documented killing spree, it was later revealed through DNA evidence that Ramirez had been responsible for the unsolved murder of a 9-year-old girl in San Francisco earlier that same year. This revelation in 2009, long after Ramirez had been apprehended, further highlighted the scope of his violent tendencies. Ramirez's crime spree spanned from April 1984 to August 1985, during which he terrorized communities across Southern California and the San Francisco Bay Area. His killings were exceptionally terrifying due to their randomness. His victims varied in age, gender, and background, and he attacked without warning. His methods were equally brutal and sadistic. Victims were often subjected to physical and sexual assaults before being killed, and many survivors described his intense cruelty. He frequently left behind satanic symbols at crime scenes, cementing his reputation as a self-proclaimed Satanist who took pleasure in invoking fear and chaos. This sadistic pattern led the media to label him the Night Stalker, a name that struck terror in the hearts of residents. As his killings continued, Ramirez's violence escalated. Notable among his victims were Vincent and Maxine Zazzara, whom he murdered in their Whittier, California home in 1985. After killing Vincent, Ramirez brutally mutilated Maxine's body, carving a pentagram into her flesh and removing her eyes. This level of grotesque brutality shocked the public and further fueled the media frenzy surrounding the case. At the time of the crime, police discovered a crucial piece of evidence: a shoe print from a men's Avia sneaker, which would later help link Ramirez to multiple crime scenes.
Oh, we bringing the bottles out. What is this? Sipping salt. We gon' figure this out right now. For sure. Let's get it.
Hey, what you got? Yeah. Hold me up, I'm almost there. Solving crimes, let's get it clear. Glasses in the air, chill. Sipping salt, that's the call for alcohol. Sipping salt, no, don't drink it all. Hey, hold me up, hold me up, yeah. Hold me up. Sipping salt. Sipping salt. Sip, hold me up. Hold me up. Yeah. Sipping salt. Sipping.
It's time for our favorite segment, Sip and Solve. Grab your shakers and glasses because we're about to mix up a drink that perfectly complements today's mystery's dark twists and turns. Today's featured cocktail is the Night Tripper, courtesy of Jewels of the South, located in New Orleans. Here's how you can concoct this intriguing libation: 1 3/4 ounce of bourbon, 3/4 ounce of dark Amaro like Averna or Ramazzotti, 1/4 ounce of Striga, 2 dashes of Pashad's bitters, and an orange peel for garnish. Stir all ingredients except garnish in a mixing glass with ice for 10 to 15 seconds until well chilled. Strain into a rocks glass over fresh ice. Garnish with an orange peel. Now, back to our case. The summer of 1985 marked the peak of Ramirez's killing spree. Communities across Southern California were paralyzed by fear, with gun sales soaring and security measures being heightened in homes throughout the region. Police were under immense pressure to catch the Night Stalker, and detectives Gil Carrillo and Frank Salerno led the effort to track him down. By July, police had connected multiple crimes to Ramirez, including the brutal assault and murder of 66-year-old Peter Pan and the sexual assault of his wife Barbara in their San Francisco home. This crime prompted then San Francisco Mayor Dianne Feinstein to reveal key details of the investigation, including the ABS shoe print, which ultimately alerted Ramirez to the fact that he was being hunted. He quickly disposed of the shoes and the gun he had been using in the attacks, but the evidence trail was already closing in on him. A major breakthrough came in August 1985 when a witness in Mission Viejo provided police with a partial license plate number of a suspicious car seen at the scene of an attempted carjacking. This tip led investigators to a stolen 1976 orange Toyota station wagon, which contained a crucial piece of evidence, a single fingerprint that matched Ramirez's criminal record. With this identification, police released his name and photograph to the public on August 30th. The very next day, Ramirez was recognized in East Los Angeles by a group of residents who chased him down after he attempted several carjackings. They subdued him and held him until the police arrived, bringing an end to the Night Stalker's reign of terror. Ramirez's trial began in 1989 and quickly became a media spectacle. He exhibited bizarre behavior throughout the proceeding, often displaying a pentagram he had drawn on his palm and shouting, "Hail Satan," in the courtroom. Ramirez showed no remorse for his actions, instead reveling in the notoriety he had gained. In September 1989, he was convicted of 13 murders, 5 attempted murders, 11 sexual assaults, and 14 burglaries. The judge presiding over his case described his crimes as showing cruelty, callousness, and viciousness beyond any human understanding. Ramirez was sentenced to 19 death penalties, yet even after his conviction, he was suspected of having committed several more murders. During his time on death row at San Quentin State Prison, Ramirez continued to attract attention. In 1996, he married Doreen Leoy, a freelance magazine editor who had written him numerous letters while he was incarcerated. The strange marriage between Ramirez and Leoy, who referred to herself as his #1 fan, only added to the public's morbid fascination with the case. However, the relationship ended in 2009 when DNA evidence conclusively linked Ramirez to the murder of the 9-year-old girl in San Francisco, further tarnishing his already infamous legacy. Ramirez spent more than 2 decades on death row, living in isolation at San Quentin. His health began to decline in his later years, and in 2013, he died of complications from B-cell lymphoma. He was 53 years old. Despite receiving 19 death sentences, Ramirez never faced execution, instead dying from natural causes while still awaiting his fate. His death marked the end of a chilling chapter in criminal history, but the terror he inflicted on countless families and communities lingers. The legacy of Richard Ramirez remains a subject of public fascination, largely due to the complexity of his psychological profile and the random extreme violence of his crimes. His life, marked by early trauma, drug abuse, and an obsession with Satanism, offers a grim look at how an individual can spiral into unchecked evil. His crimes have been the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and films, ensuring that the story of the Night Stalker continues to live on in infamy. Beyond the sensationalized aspects of his case, Richard Ramirez's legacy is ultimately one of tragedy, both for the innocent lives he destroyed and for the terrifying reminder of how darkness can manifest in the human soul. His crimes remain some of the most brutal and senseless in American history, a dark chapter that has been etched into the cultural memory. As we reach the end of this chilling episode of Murder and Cocktails, we want to thank you, our fantastic listeners, for joining us on this dark and mysterious journey. Your enthusiasm for true crime and mixology makes each episode truly special. Before we wrap up, don't forget to follow us on your favorite podcast platform to stay updated on our latest concoctions of crime and cocktails. And of course, share the love by leaving a review. Your feedback keeps the spirits high and the stories flowing. Remember to visit our website, truecrimemeetsmixology.com, for the cocktail recipe of the week, the Night Tripper, inspired by today's episode, and to check out our favorite themes. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and keep those glasses full. Cheers to the mysteries that keep us coming back for more.
Ooh, that show was good. I can't wait for the next one to come out. Binging on the podcast. Hope true crime never run out. What's gonna happen in the next episode? Nobody don't know. I'm in suspense. This get intense. No turning back now. I'm all in. True crime. We online. Tune in. It's about to